Good morning. Good morning. Today is Tuesday, May 21st. Want to welcome you all to City Hall, to this Los Angeles City Council meeting. Shh. If everyone would please take a seat. Good morning and welcome. Madam Clerk, we do have a quorum. Would you please call the roll?
Blumenfield, Bonin, Buscaino, Cedillo, Harris, Dawson, Weezer, Koretz, Krikorian, Martinez, O'Farrell, Price, Rodriguez, Rue, Smith, Wesson. 10 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. First order of business.
Approval of the minutes.
Blumenfield moves, Martinez seconds. Next.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Smith moves, Wesson seconds. That brings us where?
Mr. President, today is Tuesday and it's time for the flag salute.
If we could all rise for our flag salute, we'll be led today by Mr. Weezer. Flag salute.
Thank you. May we all stand, please? Put your hand on your heart and begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's go through the agenda.
Mr. President, there are requests to continue item 6 and 17 to May 28, 2019.
So ordered.
As well as to continue item 28 to May 22nd, 2019, sir.
So ordered. Continue.
Items 1 through 9 are items noticed for public hearing. Mr. President, there is a card on item 1, sir.
Okay, let's hold item 1 and prepare to vote on the other items. In fact, Mr. Bonin.
I'd like to ask that we receive and file 1A in as much as the property is owner occupied.
We're holding A, so when we get to A, we'll do what Mr. Bonin requested. But right now, let's move on items 2 through 9. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Okay.
Mr. President, the ordinances for 3, 7, 8, and 9 will go over 1 week for a second reading unless reconsidered with 12 members present, sir.
Okay, thank you. If we may get there. Just remind me as soon as we do get to 12. Okay, continue.
Items 10 through 12 are items for which public hearings have been held.
Okay, let's prepare to vote on these items. Please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Continue.
Mr. President, the ordinances for on item number 10 will go over 1 week unless reconsidered with 12 members present.
Thank you.
And next section is items 13 through 38, and those are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Okay, so without objection, those items are now before this body. Do you have cards?
Yes, sir. There are cards on 13, 24, 26, 27, 29, 30, 31, 32, and 33, sir.
Let's hold those items and prepare to vote on the remaining items. Now, Mr. O'Farrell has arrived, so please put him on the board. Now, on these items, let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, that brings us, in fact, why don't we vote on the items that need 12 votes, because we're at 12?
Yes, sir. And those are items 3, as well as 7, 8, 9, and 4. No, that's 9 and 10, sir.
Okay, so let's vote on reconsideration. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Now let's actually vote on the items. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay. That brings us where?
That brings council to presentations, items called special or general public comment, sir.
Let's go straight to our multiple section. Ms. McAllister, if you come forward, please. Patricia McAllister, items 1, 24, 26, 27, 29, 30, up to 33.
Okay, we have a
Good
lot
morning.
Good morning, Mr. President. We have a lot to cover today. Here, let's start with the number 29, the Removal of Employment and Housing Act. Cedilio wants to give illegal aliens housing and jobs. Well, that's why we have 100,000 African Americans on the street today, because illegal aliens are being smuggled into this state of California, especially Los Angeles, and this city council they're giving them housing and jobs. Cedilio he looks African American, and they have plenty of them in Mexico, and he needs to start standing up for African Americans. You're more African American than you are Mexican, young man. Okay, now here's the deal. We need, I've got a lot of items here to cover. $1 billion for homeless program from the governor. The governor says he'll do this. We don't need to give Los Angeles any more money. Based on my research, that money that you have, that HHH money and all that money, is not being used properly to build housing, affordable housing. Now, here's another thing. People see the people on the street, but they don't see the hidden homeless. The hidden homeless are in the shelters. That's why they call them bridges now. They want to build more, create more shelters. That's where you find the 100,000 homeless. And 90% of that, about 90,000, are African American. Those are the hidden homeless. I want people to know that. Not just on the street. Those are men, women, and children in those shelters. And if you visit any of them, you'll find mostly African Americans. Go to any of these shelters and these tents on the street, you will not find illegal alien Mexicans, nor will you find Asians, because they are given the affordable housing. Consumer loan program. Now, this is very important because, as we know, the Federal Reserve Bank and the banks are owned by Jews. And these are the Jews who want to charge 100% interest. So we need to fight this. That means if you borrow $5,000, you've got to pay back $5,000 and $5,000 more. So if you borrow $5,000, you have to pay back $10,000. We must fight this usury. That's called loan sharks. They're loan sharks, and this is usury, taking advantage of the people, not only of California and Los Angeles, but the whole country. So we need to do something about these people, but they're trying to write laws so we can't even talk about them. Okay, tax credit to pay people who are paying 30% of their wages for rent. I agree with that. People who are paying 30% or more of their wages for rent, they should get a tax credit. So that's a good idea. And let's see, we have a lot going on here. Discrimination based on traits. Discrimination, you visit Skid Row in these shelters, that's discrimination. You're saying if you have a certain hair texture, you can't be discriminated against. You're discriminated against African Americans, who are God's chosen people. We are the parents of all of you, all races. And that's why this country is going down, down, down if you don't get my people off the street and start treating African Americans the way they should be treated. We are your parents.
Okay, let's give her 1 minute. And before she starts, I'm going to close the multi-section general public comment. Ms. McAllister's the last person. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is not for Councilmember Price. He just got on the Budget and Finance Committee. The Budget and Finance Committee needs to be investigated. All of these items that are put on this agenda are sent from the departments to that Finance Committee. And they are the ones who are approving things like $34 million to fix up a building on 7th and Wall in Huzar's district, which was never fixed up. Those kind of ridiculous items are being sent through that department. Now, here's another thing. The Budget and Finance Committee, they're not holding their meetings. They're canceling 90% of them. As a matter of fact, one agenda said the meeting was canceled. It wasn't canceled. And if I go online, I can't see any minutes. There are no minutes on that Finance Committee. See, that committee is so important. We need a federal investigation because that committee brings the items to this chamber, and this city chamber votes on it, approves it, and gives it to the mayor, and he approves it. So we need an investigation. I'd like to oversee. I'll talk to you later about that.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, again, that concludes multi-comment. If we could vote on items, Mr. Clerk, if we could vote on 24, 26, 27, please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Now let's vote on items 29, 30, 31, 32, and 33. Please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, let's go to quickly item 13. Is there a Barry Florence? Please let him through, Sergeant. Item 13.
Good morning. Thank you for
Morning.
allowing me to speak. I am the attorney for HaHa Inc., one of the parties to this matter. I'm speaking on behalf of the project. It's been over a year that we've worked diligently to put this together. So I'm primarily here to see if there's any questions, and if not, we would request that this council approve the entire number 13 and the project. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Let's prepare to vote on this item. Mr. Clerk, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Okay, we're, Mr. Bonin, we're at item 1A. We're going to receive and file, but we do have somebody here to speak on it. Farid, please come forward.
Good morning. My name is Farid Yadigar on behalf of the property owner, Herschel Sadian. I've been told this matter is going to be closed. I was just confirming that there's going to be no lien, and that's all I had to say.
Well, that's what Mr. Bonin is trying to do here. Mr.
Okay.
Bonin, did you want to respond to him quickly?
I appreciate it.
That's exactly what we're doing. We're
Thank you
receiving
so
and
much.
filing the item, which means there's no lien.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's vote on the receive and file. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Blumenfield, if you give me a few minutes, I think I can just move through public comment. Can I get Chad B., Brandon Smith, Johnny Padilla, Zach Strashers? Please come forward. Come forward if I called your name. Come forward, identify yourself, and state what's on your mind.
Yeah, I'm Chad B. I'm actually pretty sure that all of you know who I am. We've been dealing with the phenomenon in our country and on this planet for 5 years now. We're psychic. We can read each other's minds. And when I honestly look at it, if there was ever a planet in the middle of outer space where living creatures thought they were living a normal life, and they suddenly became some sort of superpower, like psychic, I think it would be kind of the worst situation possible if all of them decided to hide it from each other and their children. And I'm pretty sure that's what we're doing. And I'm pretty sure we're doing it because if we can read each other's minds on a daily basis, we can sense and hear that we are a language that formed and fashioned this country, and that language is English. You understand my words right now?
Thank you, sir. If I could have the next speaker. Thank you, Mr. B. Next speaker, identify yourself.
Good morning, I'm Brandon Smith with Arms of LA. We work to assist at-risk youth, veterans, homeless, and anyone in need of a second chance. These jobs created by the gas and oil industry benefit people from across California, across many different ethnic and diverse class backgrounds, including individuals who are in need of good-paying middle-class jobs. Don't eliminate these jobs, these good-paying middle-class jobs for local residents, such as members of our organization. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please identify yourself, and I'm looking for Major Dotson, Zach Strasters, and Akili. Yes.
Good morning. I'm Johnny Padilla, and I'm here today on behalf of ARMS. The jobs the industry provides for the many people in Los Angeles offers competing wages, quality health care, continued training, and reliable retirement plans. They'll put those benefits at risk for the families that need it most and work hard every day to maintain those benefits. California has the strictest safety and environmental regulations when it comes to the oil and gas productions. By keeping the industry here locally, we are able to follow those strict regulations. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, identify yourself.
Hi, good morning. My name is Zach Strossers with the ARMS organization. Good morning to the councilmen and women. So those last two young men that you heard speak are two of our prime examples of young men that we've gone out and that we've reached in Los Angeles. And part of what ARMS organization does is it helps to build up a base of young men and women that were once in kind of some miry situations and equip them, give them the right resources and tools necessary to not only become productive members of society, but to be able to retain quality careers that are family-sustaining wages, that they're able to build on regardless of maybe their educational level or their background. And so we're here today to just kind of reiterate the need to protect quality career, community bedrock types of jobs. The oil and gas industry does have a 2,500-foot setback issue. That's before at the state level and also at the city council level. So we want to remind you, when those issues come up to bat, anything that could potentially limit the jobs we have in LA, vote against those things.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Yes. Identify yourself, sir.
R.W. Akil, Kwanzaa people of color. Deracination is a crime against humanity. Gentrification is the monetization of that crime. We're in the middle of a homeless crisis. As such, said crisis needs to be addressed further than what it has been addressed. Homelessness is an effect that affects every single one of your districts here. It is something that we must address fully and face on. The existing housing developments that have been proposed and are on board at this time do not satisfy that need in any way, shape, or form. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. This is the last speaker. Yes, sir.
Yes, my name is Major Dotson. Congratulations to the president of the council on your work with social equity. Let me start off by saying that. And I'd like to talk right now about Firefly. It's the advertisements you see on top of cars. In this city, that kind of advertisement, the drivers get paid. We supplement our income with that advertisement. Hundreds of people are supplementing their income using smart screens, smart advertisement. We make money off of that. We're hardworking people who drive. You have hundreds of drivers, Latino, African American. In the West Adams district, I use this opportunity and these screens to supplement my income as well. So hundreds of people are making money. Tens of thousands of people can get jobs making this income. Even in Bloomfield, Mr. Bloomfield, even in your area in the Valley, all over, all the council.
Thank you.
You guys can be a part of this and help people get jobs.
Thank you. Okay, that closes general public comment. So public comment for this day has been closed. Mr. Blumenfield, for your presentation.
Hello, how are you? Hello, hello. Rarely do we get to be surrounded by such esteemed people as are coming here before us today. So, colleagues, Mr. President, folks at home, I know when you woke up this morning and you turned on the sink, or you flushed the toilet, or you drove on the roads, or you admired the amazing engineering of our public structures, you probably said to yourself, like I did and I often do, when do we get to celebrate our public works, folks? When do we really get to honor them? Well, you're in luck today, people, because this time, we are celebrating National Public Works Week in the city of Los Angeles. As you know, the American Public Works Association has declared that the May 19th through 25th is the week to recognize the contributions made by the individuals that make up the public work bureaus and departments across the U.S. and that other place in Canada. So, this year's theme is It Starts Here. And this is true because public works are the first steps in the creation of a successful, thriving city. The Los Angeles Department of Public Works, consisting of the Bureaus of Contract Administration, Engineering, Sanitation, Street Lighting, Street Services, and the board offices, builds, maintains, monitors, and improves our city's amazing infrastructure. Each play a critical role in maintaining the health of our city, and it is really wonderful to have so many leaders from the Department of Public Works and the Commission making our city better every day and standing with me here today. And I'm talking about our board president, Kevin James, our board vice president, Cecilia Cabello, our board president pro tem, Dr. Mike Davis, our commissioner, Aura Garcia, our commissioner, Jessica Caloza, our executive director of the Bureau of Street Lighting, Norma Ishkakian, our inspector of public works for the Bureau of Contract Administration, John Reamer, our director of Bureau of Street Services, Adele Hakel Khalil, our director of Bureau of Engineering, Gary Moore, our Bureau of Sanitation Director, Enrique Zaldivar, Executive Director of the Board of Public Works, Fernando Campos, and the Petroleum Administrator, Board of Public Works, Udawak Natung. Now, they and the many people that serve in these departments do the work every day to keep our public works thriving. I became the chair of the Public Works Committee about 1.5 years ago, and it has been amazing to work with these folks in developing our city's infrastructure with all of these committed commissioners and directors. And when I say committed, I don't mean that they should be committed into an institution. I mean that they are dedicated. Now, some people might say the amazing work they do might augur for the first one rather than the second one, but I'm talking about dedication. And without our basic infrastructure, such as roads and streetlights and bridges, we would not be able to accomplish our everyday routines as we go about our lives, working, eating at our favorite restaurants, shopping. Our sewers and storm drains keep our city clean and safe and ensure our public health. Public works are critical infrastructure for the sustainable economy which fuels the resources that contributes to our quality of life across this city. They maintain our roads needed for law enforcement and other public safety agencies, such as our firefighters and paramedics, to quickly travel to get to these needed emergencies. Clean and safe roads, sidewalks, and bridges allow our residents and tourists alike to travel to our various parts of the city for leisure, for family activities, for anything. Public works is literally the bedrock and the foundation of our cities. Now, over the past 1.5 years, I am proud to report that we have tackled some major big issues and made some major strides, including dramatically increasing the funding for the Urban Forestry Division, making sure that utility companies finally pay for the damage that they cause our public rights-of-way, and updating the street damage restoration fee so that folks will be incentivized to actually rip up the street right before it's getting fixed and not after. Bringing back hundreds of streets that were removed from public use, many of which haven't seen service in over 80 years. We brought them back this year. It is our job to not only fix and maintain our streets and sidewalks, to make sure the trash gets picked up and ensure that our bridges are safe, but it's also our job to have the vision and the plan to execute that vision. So Los Angeles, we continue to be on the cutting edge of infrastructure advancement because of the folks who are standing here. From the Cool Pavement Initiative, to utilizing creative materials to cut the cost of fixing our roads, to boosting the MyLA 311 system, to making it better than any other in the nation, we are collectively pushing what was once thought possible with regards to our local infrastructure and services, and we are looking to the future to what people think is impossible. Every Angelino and every visitor that comes to our city deserves the best and most innovative roads, sidewalks, and experience. Now, before we formally declare Public Works Week here in Los Angeles, we are going to get to hear from the Vice President of the Public Works Board, Cecilia Cabello, who has over 10 years of experience working in the city of Los Angeles. So, Cecilia, let me turn it over to you.
Thank you, Councilmember Blumenfield, for the introduction. Good morning, council members. On behalf of the Board of Public Works, I'd like to thank you for your continued support of our Department of Public Works and the work of our 5 bureaus: Contract Administration, Engineering, LA Sanitation, Street Lighting, Streets LA, formerly Street Services, and the board offices. So as Councilmember Blumenfield just mentioned, this past Saturday we kicked off National... Thank you. I'm quite familiar with that timer. National Public Works Week. This year's theme, as he mentioned, is It Starts Here. And here we recognize the more than 5,000 hardworking and dedicated public works employees who are often behind the scenes but deserve top billing for building and maintaining our city's infrastructure. Public works professionals are responsible for the design, construction, renovation, and operation of the public projects and services, ranging from bridges to wastewater treatment to plants and libraries. Our teams collect waste, remove graffiti, and trim trees. They fill potholes, repair sewers, and keep the street lights on. And they do it each day with that can-do Angelino attitude. The work our employees do daily is critical to our economy and contributes to the quality of life and well-being of Los Angeles' more than 4 million residents, as well as those who visit our city every day. Throughout this week, the Department of Public Works will be holding special events across the city to celebrate the importance of our work in our communities. So today, I ask all Angelinos to join us in recognizing the indispensable role public works employees play in the success and health of both our cities and our residents. And so I'd like to thank the council again for your continued support of our work. Thank you.
Okay, then now, therefore, be it resolved that we here on the City Council do hereby proclaim May 19th through 25th National Public Works Week. Let the festivities begin, and please accept this small token of recognition.
Mr. Blumenfield, I'd like to recognize David Rue right now, if I might.
Thank you, Councilman Blumenfield, Chair of the Public Works Committee. I just wanted to rise, because I had to rise, to say thank you to the entire Public Works Department, the Public Works Commission. I mean, we have one of the most experienced and hardworking Public Works Commissioner, led by one of Council District 4 constituents, Kevin James, President of the Commission, and everyone else. And I'm so excited to work. My office is extremely thankful to every single one of the individuals at Public Works, because we have, and I know every district has so many requests, and you guys have to juggle it, you know, working with John Reamer, Gary Lee Moore, everyone. I think you guys, I should have set up a little desk or an office in my office for Public Works, because you guys are in my office so many times. And I really got to thank the breath of fresh new air from Adele, who has really already taken a department that's been working so great to think outside the box to get so many more things done. So thank you, Councilman Blumenfield, for recognizing Public Works Week, and for all the men and women of the Department of Public Works. Thank you so very much for all of your service.
Mr. O'Farrell.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, Bob, to kind of continue the riff that you began with, when I think of bridges across the Los Angeles River, I think of Deborah Weintraub. When I think of re-engineered streets, I think of Gary Lee Moore, one in particular, Gary. When I think of reducing single-use plastics, I think of Cecilia Cabello. When I think of reducing the heat island effect, I think of Adel Haja Khalil. When I think of streetlights, I of course think of Norma Issa-Hikian, who I'm going to be with tomorrow morning as we celebrate a new street lighting project at our Safe Routes for School project in Hollywood. And to that end, when I think about overall project leadership, I think of my friend Kevin James. But the person who brings it all in for all of us is our colleague, Bob Blumenfield. So thank you to the entire team at Public Works for all you do. I'm going to try not to think of all of you when I flush my toilet tomorrow morning. That would just be unkind. So I'm really sorry to hear that Bob mentioned that as a metaphor. We can all try to, forget that we heard that. But I will think of all of you when I think about the trees along Fletcher Drive near where I live, and the improved sidewalks, and the new curb cuts, and the ADA ramps, You do indeed make this city work better, and we thank you for your work.
Ms. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. President, and to my former colleagues and friends on Public Works. I am really grateful for the support that you've provided in my district that has been critical to helping to advance and make great strides at a time when we didn't see a lot of that basic infrastructure investment and to be problem solvers. I remember with this one incident while I was still on the Board of Public Works, which has made a huge difference. It was an issue where we had water runoff that was flooding a business, a long-time family-owned business that was receiving inches and inches of water, just kind of standing water in their business as a result of the runoff. And I remember at the time talking to Adele, talking to BOE, talking to Street Services to help figure out what the solution could be after decades of that business owner being told there was nothing that could be done. Well, this was the group that helped get it done. And it was because you guys come together, you don't have silos. This is a reflection of a department that knows how to collaborate and help problem solve in this city. And so I'm grateful for your example in the city of Los Angeles and how we really do make a difference each and every day to making sure, you know, it's the seamless operation that only when we have that one-off, when it doesn't work, that we get the calls. So often it's with regular effort that you continue to make a difference in the city of Angels. And I thank you so much for your work and your friendship. I think it represents some of the best talent that we have in the city. And so happy Public Works Week.
Joey B.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Monica, for your words. Our resident Public Works specialist here coming from the board. I too want to rise and recognize our chairman and Bob in leadership and your commitment in improving our infrastructure in the city of Los Angeles. And you are surrounded by just a wealth of knowledge, just professionals who are leading the city of Los Angeles. We just concluded Infrastructure Week in this country. And municipalities from Middle America, the left coast, west coast, have celebrated a number of key infrastructure projects that are leading this country in municipalities through National League of Cities. We were together at the 6th Street Bridge in Mr. Weezar's district to share the ongoing progress that's being done in the city of Los Angeles. And Mr. Bonnet and I are really proud that at the airport, $14 billion of the Land Access Modernization Plan that finally bringing light rail to the airport, SB1 dollars, Measure M dollars are all coming to you to ensure that these dollars are well spent to improve how we live, how we commute. And I just want to rise and thank you for your, as we celebrate you this week. Just yesterday we were in Watts on 103rd Street with our Streetscape Project Phase 2. We've done so much together and we're going to do more. Expansion of the Century Boulevard in Watts and a lot of the sustainability projects on Terminal Island, and could not be done without your ongoing leadership and direction. And I do also want to recognize our mayor, who continues to celebrate the fact that we are paving more streets since the reception in a long time. So we thank his leadership and guidance to the board, as well as all of our general managers. So looking forward to an exciting week. Bob, what else is going on? Anything else celebrating?
This is the biggest thing going.
All right, fantastic. Just be sure, remember, your priority is CD15 moving forward and all these infrastructure projects. Thank you very much. And also, the Port of Los Angeles cannot really, you're talking about the move and $1 million a day on goods movement, on commercial development, and we know that each and every one of you have been on the forefront in making sure that these projects are coming to life on time, on budget, right, Sissy? Thank you so much, and it's going to be a good week. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Buscaino. Mr. Krikorian.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Blumenfield, both for today's presentation and for your leadership in pushing forward the Public Works agenda and reminding us all of the importance of Public Works year-round. I grew up in Los Angeles, as many of us did, where we had neighborhoods that worked, streets that worked. Growth seemed to be almost without limit because a prior generation of elected leaders and city officials and taxpayers made the decision to look forward not to the next election cycle, but to the next century, and begin building the foundation of Los Angeles that would enable us to achieve that, the great city that we did achieve. And I think we all know and can see the results of the fact that nationally, throughout California, and yes, here in Los Angeles, recent trends have not been so robust in terms of our looking forward and investing in our future. And I'm so glad, Mr. Blumenfield, that you raised some of the issues about the budget that we'll be voting on shortly that will increase investment in the future, investment in trees, investment in sidewalks, investment in stormwater, and so many other areas of vital public infrastructure. But it bears being reminded of the fact that still, even 10 years after the trough of the recession, we still have not restored these bureaus to where they need to be. We still, after 10 years, are not investing enough in street services or in engineering or in many of the other bureaus. And the fact is that while many of us have many priorities that we want to fund, there's many things that people come to the City Council and ask us to start a new program and fund and use the taxpayers' money to pay for. The fact is that these bureaus provide the services that taxpayers need to make this city work, to make their lives work, to be able to build jobs and create the kind of economy that's going to keep this city going. And if we don't redouble our efforts to not only restore, but to fully fund the bureaus of public work within the Department of Public Works to be able to build that infrastructure we need, we can't continue to be the extraordinary city that we all want this city to be. So I think it's critically important that we remember that every single time we are requested to start a new program or spend money on something new. Let's remember that we're still not spending enough on fixing our streets or fixing our sidewalks or designing safe bridges or doing the other things that we must do to continue to function as a city. And the final point on that is, for the last 10 years, since we went through those massive cuts that we had to suffer through because of the recession, the men and women of these bureaus, day in and day out, show up to work and keep this city going with not enough people, not enough backup, not enough equipment, not enough money, not enough support. And each and every day, they still do it to the best of their abilities. They show up and try to say yes and to fix things for all of our constituents and all of our offices. And for that, all of us and the citizens that we represent are very grateful to all of you and to all of the many people that work under your leadership. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Krikorian, for those fantastic words. Guys, you're just the best. Bob, you're blessed to work with one heck of a group of folk, from our new commissioner, Garcia, CC, Mike, Kevin, the leader of the A-team there, and Adele and Gary, and I could go on. But I know that whenever we need help, you guys always respond. I think you're the best. You make us look good. So let's give them a real round of applause, because they deserve it. They are our A-team, the first line of defense. Come on. Thank you all so very much.
Great, thank you. Great.
Okay. Madam Clerk, what's before us now?
Council has motions for posting and referral.
Okay, posted and referred. Members, are there any announcements? Any announcement, members? If we can all rise for adjourning motions. We have a very special adjourning motion this morning. If I can all please ask everyone to rise, including members of our public. Out of respect, I'm going to ask you all to rise for adjourning motions. Sergeants, there seems to be a disturbance in the back of the council chambers. Can you please address that before we get started? There will be one adjourning motion this morning. Mr. Cedillo? Whenever you're ready, sir.
Dearest members, let me indulge or ask for your indulgence for a second. I know at times I could be long-winded, get lost in my stories, but if there was ever a moment for that, it is now. Let me tell you about a moment in the fall of 1977. I was running for office. I was running for the state assembly. It was the first time, and Jose, you know the drugstore at the corner of Euclid and Whittier. My campaign office was next door. It was a small room about as big as this podium. And my father was positioned in a corner, and he kept eyeing this guy, this tall, imposing man. And he kept looking at him. He was checking him out. If you've seen my father, he looked scary. He was a boxer, and he was a kind of tough-looking guy, worked in the factories. And so he approaches the guy and says, "Are you Mawa?" The guy says, "No, I don't know who you're talking about, sir." And he says, "Are you sure you're not Mawa?" He says, No, you look like Mawa." He says, No. He says, "Yeah. My father's dementia had kind of started early on, and so he was just a little more aggressive than normal." As it turns out, he was talking to Nativo Lopez, and Mawa was the nickname of his father. My dad and his father had both been paratroopers. They'd grown up on the streets of Los Angeles. They'd been boxers. And so they knew each other. And it was interesting because Nativo and I had already been friends. And now there was this incredible story, this special story about how our fathers had been friends and had been engaged in some very important times as people who defended their country, committed to service. Nativo was a sixth-generation Mexican-American. And so in the 1970s, when we met, he was already a well-known activist in the community. We met, I was in college, and we were part of an organization called CASA, Center for Autonomous Social Action, General Brotherhood of Workers. At that time, it was unusual and rare because there weren't many pro-immigrant organizations. There was no CHIRLA or Credesen or any of these other groups. There was just CASA right over here on New Hampshire and Pico, next to Vermont. And so I remember I joined CASA, and Nativo was one of its leaders, and I got to meet him, learn about him. He also had been an athlete, a star athlete in Norwalk in high school, been an activist in the colleges when he first started, helped found the Chicano Studies department at a local community college. And so we got to know each other, but he then uprooted himself to Santa Ana, and to Orange County. Now that seemed not very strategic when you think about the Orange Curtain in those days. It was a Republican stronghold. It was not a place that you could think you would go and organize immigrants and workers. But that he did. He went down and spent much of the 80s under the tutelage of Bert Corona, the legendary union and immigrant leader. He organized tenants and organized a historic tenants rent strike. He also organized advocacy for immigration reform, what was known as IRCA, and he taught classes in English and taught people to learn English so that they could become citizens. And the product of all that work was later he was elected to the Santa Ana School Board, was its president, and then later on led initiatives to build more schools in Santa Ana so that there would be, much like we are here in Los Angeles, the process of making sure there's adequate schools and infrastructure for the burgeoning Latino population. Of course, he continued to do that work. It was not popular, but it was the right thing to do. And he was the best at it. He built a large and loyal base. We reunited and met again in the early and mid-'90s when I was head of SCIU Local 660. He and Bert came down to my office. I remember the meeting on a Saturday morning, also with some young activists, a guy named Fabian Nunez and a guy named Kevin De Leon. They were there with Juan Jose Gutierrez, who was in many respects a protege of Nativo. And we talked about our efforts to defeat this proposition, Proposition 187. And 187 was a controversial proposition. It was anti-immigrant. It was part of the unthoughtful process that Chris Korbach comes up with of trying to be as draconian as you can towards immigrants. Not very thoughtful because it doesn't appreciate the value immigrants play in our society, not just today, not just in our history, but in the future. But that was a value that Nativo and I shared, an incredible love and commitment for immigrants and for this nation. And so Nativo and I began to work again. Bert, they wrote a great book about Bert. We did some programs around that. And then later there was a crisis around LA County. And Mr. President, you may remember this because as we were protesting and putting lots of people in the streets for a year, many of those people were brought by Nativo Lopez because that was part of our broad coalition. It was workers from the county, other union workers, but people from the community, and we could always rely on Nativo to bring busloads of workers and immigrants to our rallies. Later on, as many of you know, I moved and ran for the Assembly. That's where the story begins, where we began to appreciate our common history. Nativo brought me this idea early on. He talked about the members of his organization who were being stopped and having their cars towed. And he said, we need a driver's license. We need to address this. And so that began kind of the work that I was noted for 15 years in the legislature. I became One Bill Gill. But throughout the entirety of that struggle, there were many people who came and found it to be novel and exciting, and then they would leave. But throughout that struggle, there was one singular person who was always there at my side, uncompromising, loyal to our shared values, and that was Nativo Lopez. Always there without exception. When we were ridiculed, when we were vilified, when we were protested, when people threatened us, he was always there, and he was uncompromising. During that time period, we were very active, and Nativo was one of the leaders of those mega marches that took place here in downtown Los Angeles, where literally millions of people showed up in defense of draconian proposals. He and I were very active with American Apparel, and its brilliant and controversial leader, Dov Charney, is with us. American Apparel was down the street. It employed 10,000 immigrants at the highest wages around and was one of the most productive and popular companies. When a hedge fund went after them to try to take them over, Nativo played a major role in defending the workers there. When the E-Verify system of the Obama administration was used to take workers out of their workplace, American Apparel was hard hit. Literally, a few thousand workers lost their jobs. And Nativo was there, I was there. It was brutal to see people lose their jobs simply because of a computer that could say, you have to prove your status to work here. But he was there because he was always there because he loved the immigrant community. Loving the immigrant community meant he loved this nation. Many people found him to be controversial. I did not. I found him to be humble. I found him to be kind. I found him to be fearless. I found him to be generous. He was dependable. He was fiercely loyal to our shared values, to his family, who I'm joined with, to his friends, and to the movement. And for that, he will be deeply missed. The pain is unmeasurable. It is shocking. It's incomprehensible to think that I am here today to talk about the loss of him. It's difficult to imagine going forward, but we will. He sent me a text when he realized he had cancer. And it's interesting because he said, "No pity party here. I will beat this. We will beat this. We have a lot to do. We must beat Trump. We must organize. We will win. Venceremos." That's how he closed this, and that's how I want to close this. That we've got a lot to do. We will win. We must go forward. Venceremos. Nativo vive. Thank you so much.
Gil, if I may just say a few words. First of all, I want to give you my sincerest condolences. I think this year has been incredibly difficult for you and for close family members and brothers that you've lost this year. So first of all, my heart breaks for you. One of the things I can recall about Nativo is the fight against 187. At the time, I had just graduated from high school. No, actually, I was still in high school. And I remember the marches down Van Nuys Boulevard, and I remember the incredible resilience of the Northeast San Fernando Valley, particularly in the Pacoima community. And I remember meeting him for the first time. But one of the things that struck me the most was his incredible love for a really, really good friend of ours, Soledad Chole Alatorre,
Yes.
Who he loved as his mother, who I loved as my second mother. And I remember how much she would talk about him and how much she was constantly concerned that he was being targeted by the police department and from federal government that were incredibly harsh on what he was trying to do. But one of the things that I recall last year when we honored Chole before she moved back to Mexico, we had her here upstairs. And I remember she told me that if it wasn't for Nativo making sure that no one swindled her from her home and making sure that all her finances were in place, that only because of him she was able to go back home with her sister and retire. Chole beat cancer, and Nativo was there to make sure that all her medical needs were taken care of and make sure that she had the right people taking care of her. And I will never forget how much she loved him, and vice versa. So my friend, I know it's hard. I feel for you. But everyone in this council chambers at one point has lost someone that was dear and dear to their heart. And I know that we need to keep going.
Yep.
So with that, Nativo, rest in peace. We owe you a tremendous gratitude for all the different causes you fought with us, including in the San Fernando Valley, East LA, and the Orange County. Nativo was always there. And with that, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Our meeting is adjourned.